Hi everybody, this is Victoria. Welcome back to another episode of Discovering Art Together, and welcome back to my art YouTube channel. Today we're going to talk something a little bit more specific again, diving deeper into the main subject of Corot and his great impact with his Italian landscape paintings. Today we are going to see about observation. So what did Corot see and how did he observe, and what did he apply to his paintings, and what does he use most often? Like how does he does the composition, what does he pay attention to as into details, and what colors he uses, and perspective, and there's so much more that we're going to talk about today in this video. But feel free to check out the other two videos before this so you kind of get an idea of like how this whole story and kind of learning and discovery started out. We are on this journey together, so let's go ahead and jump into this to learn some more about Corot and his landscape paintings. So let's start with which paintings are we going to look at today. So there are two paintings that we're going to look at together, and we're going to be kind of observing and researching what exactly did Corot use a lot in many of his landscape paintings, and then what were different between the two paintings, right? Some things he would probably want to change just to experiment and try out new things to see how it looks, and then some things he already tried that before, he liked it and he wanted to keep it, so he kind of continued adding that to his other landscape paintings and adapting that into his new paintings as well. Let's start with the first painting here, which we have is View of Marino in the Alban mountains in the morning. So this is a very gorgeous landscape painting that he did plein air, which is really beautiful, and it's amazing how he actually could execute these amazing lights from it. And then the second painting that we're going to look at together today is we are going to look at View of Genoa. So a little bit about the two paintings over here. There's something about being able to paint in plein air that's really special, and then also really important to kind of grasp the fundamentals in order to grasp the lighting, color, and value tones that you need at the certain moment of the day in order to paint that down onto your canvas. So you need extreme precision, extreme observation, so you probably have a lot of observation and a lot of practice and training, so that you already have this knowledge of, okay, I see this type of lighting during this type of hour of the day, and then also depending on the surroundings, what colors, what values to use, and just how to actually be able to apply that with your paintbrush. So everything has to go really quick when you're going to plein air, because the weather changes and then the lighting changes so quickly that it's just so hard to actually have time to observe slowly though, but it's more like condensed focus. So let's take a look at this painting over here by squinting a little bit. So when we squint and view with very little lighting coming into your eyes, we kind of narrow down and kind of merge a lot of the tones and the values together, so we kind of have a more categorized value tones and also color. So squinting kind of helped me see the composition a lot better, so everything kind of simplifies itself and blends in all together, so it's a little easier to see the shapes and the perspective and the view a lot better. Okay, so let's actually take a look at this painting, not in color though, but let's go ahead and take a look at it in black and white. And as you can see, once we turn this into black and white, a lot of things changes. Things tend to blend in with one another, and what we're actually going to do even more is that I'm going to bump up the contrast. So what this does is that it kind of gives us a kind of rough idea of what the value tones would actually look like if we were to simplify them in 3 main categories. So we have white, we have gray, and then we have black. And so the gray part is like more of your middle tones, and we got our dark tones and our brightest and lightest tones. So seeing the painting of Marino in this way is actually really interesting. As you can see, the horizon line that Corot used is where the golden ratio is, which is a very common thing that a lot of artists use in order to build a composition. So the horizon line is on the golden ratio, and also the white highlight part of the building is also built on the golden ratio as well, but it's the vertical golden ratio. So that's one thing that was really interesting, and then you'll kind of see later on in the other painting where he also uses a very similar composition using the golden ratio, or the golden mean, or we also call it the golden rectangle. So having that said, we kind of took a look at it in a very drastic way, a very contrasted way, and then now we're actually going to take a look at how good was the balance between the subjects. So you got 60% of the main whole bottom part, which is basically black, and then you have 30%, which is the secondary part, which is the gray area, which you probably mostly see as the clouds in the sky, and then also the dark accent part, which is the white area, which gives more texture, and then also just kind of draws more specific attention because there's so little of it. So we got 60, 30, and 10% here. Now, if we were to look at a color composition for this painting, so we're gonna turn this back into color, and it's really interesting. So it had a really nice variety of yellows, black, green, and then also blue, white, and gray. So green as in majority of the front part of this painting where you see the plains, the green grass, and all that stuff, and then the black is where the dark shadows are, with this really strong contrast because it's in the morning, and probably this is where a lot of the stronger sunlight is starting to come along because it's probably going to get closer to noon, and you have this deep, dark, strong contrast between the shadows and the lighter parts. And then the yellow is definitely more of the buildings and the in-between, so like the middle section of the painting. And then you have the blue, white, and gray, which is more or less the sky, and then the more distant parts. So in order to kind of categorize this, Corot did a really good job at actually balancing this out as well. So he did 60%, which is basically mainly green and black, which is more of like the darker areas, I would categorize that, and or at least I would say it's the darkest color out of the other 2 options, which is 30% is blue, white, and gray, which is our neutral colors, so you got more of the sky, and then you also got more of the white area, which is like the far distant landscapes there, and then also you have some warmer colors, which is the very little and minimal part, which is basically probably 10%. And that is a very good and well-balanced color composition, and also just generally value composition in general, because you don't want too much of something that would kind of disturb the whole harmony of this painting, so he did a very good job. Now, let's take a look at the next painting over here. So the view of Genoa. Yeah, so with this painting, Corot did something really interesting as well, where he also did make the foreground a lot darker, so it actually guides our eyes to go and gaze at something that's a little bit more visible, because in the front it's a little bit all in shadows and then we can't see as much. So when there's nothing to keep our eyes interested, we tend to move on to somewhere else and scan other places just to see what else is visible to our eyes. and Corot did a great job of that. So basically we start from the front and then we kind of slowly move to the back, and then the super contrasted and the value tones and value study of this painting. 60% was basically the dark parts, which is mostly the bottom parts, and kind of goes up a little bit, where 30% was the gray area, which is the second main subject, and then the main subject, which is the white where the building is. So he did a very good balance between the value tones over here. So the value tone balance and just the value tone composition is very well done. The other thing that was also really interesting is that once we bring this into color, he did also something very similar. So if we kind of take a look, the white is technically our main color or our main tone, so that was like 30%. So you see a lot of the white buildings in the distance, and then also we have 60% of the green and the gray, and then the blue and the neutral, and also plus the dark tones, right? And then the 10% is actually the reddish tint of the building on the left side. So that kind of gives us attention, because since the surroundings is mostly neutral, then the second thing that we would actually look at is basically the whiteness of the buildings in the city. And then once we're kind of done with that, then we're just trying to see, okay, is there anything else to see other than the white buildings? And then we kind of shift our eyes to the left side, and then we kind of see, oh, okay, there's this reddish brown building, and then it's actually nice because it has an accent of white there too. So with stronger contrast, that would actually attract our eyes to look at that specific spot. So now we kind of know a little bit about the landscape of Marino. I'll just call it the landscape of Marino for right now. So that painting, and now we're going to actually go ahead and compare it with this painting of Genoa. So Marino and Genoa. So what are the difference between the two, and then what did Corot keep and have something that's very similar? So as you can see, both of the horizon lines are on the golden ratio, and it's not too surprising though, but it's actually a great idea to actually do that, because there's nothing better than to actually put your horizon line on one of the golden ratio. So they put it at the more of the top part instead of the lower part, because they had something else at the bottom there. So many of the main focus is built on the buildings too, on the vertical golden ratio as well. So those two are very similar with both of the paintings, because Corot kind of wanted to make sure that he guided the viewer's eyes to specific areas of the painting in order to capture our gaze, basically. And out of the two paintings, the direction of the perspective is slightly bit different though, but it kind of tells a different story, right? So if you see Marino, that painting, it's more kind of going to the right side. The perspective is slightly bit flatter. It's not as dynamic as Genoa, where it's more of like, you see the depth in there, where Marino's more from like the side. Like there still is perspective though, but it's not as intense. Genoa definitely had a lot more details in it, mostly with all the buildings, while the opposite of Genoa, which is Marino had a lot of nice warmer colors and contrasted values. And if we actually connect these two paintings, I kind of noticed. So let's go ahead and connect these two paintings, and what do we discover? We discover that they can actually connect with each other on the same horizon line. So Corot seems to like this type of composition a lot, although I only looked at two paintings here that he did, which are quite similar, but still very different though. But it's really interesting how you can actually connect the horizon lines together, and this could possibly make a brand new painting. It's really interesting. So I'm probably going to look at it this way. So we have Marino on the left side and Genoa on the right side, and it kind of connects each other. It's like a what do you call those, a panorama kind of picture. So you kind of see how the Marino kind of connects and continues through the Genoa painting. And if we were to swap these two around, it has a little bit of a different feeling. I think if Marino was on the left side, it has a better connection and flow to move to the right side into Genoa though. But it's really interesting how by connecting these two separate paintings together, we have a new way of seeing the painting, which probably not a lot of people have tried it out though, but it's just fun to try out something that was like really out of the box, something that is unusual, but it turned out pretty cool. And that is pretty much what I mostly discovered from these two paintings by Jean-Baptiste-Camille Corot and his beautiful Italian landscape paintings. And I hope you guys enjoyed these new discoveries, and if you guys have discoveries yourself by looking at these two paintings very closely, please do comment below in the description. I would love to know what you discovered by observing and kind of taking a look at these two paintings and what they have in common, what they have slightly bit different, and do they have a connection, or maybe they're just better off as two separate paintings though. But yep. Okay, and that is all for today. So I hope we enjoyed this journey of Corot's great impact with his Italian landscape paintings, and there's so much more to learn for sure. So I'll make sure to kind of explore a bit more, discover more, and also share my thoughts and ideas with you guys, so you can also learn new things and kind of see it in a different perspective and view. But okay, and that's it for today. So I'll see you guys again in the next video, and take care, have a wonderful week, stay creative, don't stop learning, and continue to discover and share the new things you've learned. Okay, see you guys, bye!